can a gift or an inheritance be considered marital property in Texas? And generally, it's considered separate property that is not subject to division in a divorce. So it's really important to look at the data, consult with an experienced attorney, because there are some cases where, let's say that you had a house prior to the marriage. If that house increased in value, it is highly possible that the equity that accumulated during the marriage would be subject to division, even if the initial underlying value of the home is considered separate property. So consult with an experienced attorney whenever you have significant separate assets to make sure that your property is protected in a divorce. How is your business divided in a divorce? And that depends on several factors, including when your business was started, when it was begun, when it was formed with the Secretary of State in Texas, for example, and whether it's considered your separate property or community property. But it's important to often hire and obtain a business valuation to determine the value of the business, because it oftentimes has to be divided, but we can always negotiate who keeps what. Maybe the other spouse can stay with other property if you want to keep the whole business, or maybe the business will have to be dissolved. But generally, there's multiple things that can happen during the course of a divorce to protect and to value a business. How is cryptocurrency handled in a divorce? And the same laws that apply to real estate apply to cryptocurrency under Texas law. So if you accumulated Bitcoin, for example, during the marriage, that is considered community property that would need to be divided in a divorce decree. So it's really important to look at the data, look at the records to determine when certain assets were acquired, to determine if it's community property or, if you had it before the marriage, separate property. How is the value of a business determined in Texas? And it's oftentimes, especially for businesses that are $1 million or more, to hire an expert to conduct a business valuation study, or to provide us a business valuation that we can use as evidence in court. The business evaluators look at a lot of different factors, and when there is no business evaluator, we may look at profit and loss statements. What are the assets of the business? What are the debts of the business? What has that spouse been receiving as compensation or salary? How many employees does the business have? There are a lot of different factors, so it's important to consult with an experienced family law attorney to help guide you through the valuation of your business, because it could be subject to division in a divorce under Texas law. How does Texas handle your stock options and your brokerage accounts in a divorce? And so we need to look at whether those accounts are considered separate property or community property. Anything that you had prior to the marriage was considered separate property, but if you continue to invest in those same stocks, if those accounts continue to accumulate during your marriage, then the part that accumulated during the marriage could be subject to division. So it's really important to start gathering all of your financial records and getting statements of your most recent statements, as well as statements of the value of your asset at the beginning of your marriage, so we can determine how much is the community interest that could be subject to division. We can always negotiate who keeps what, but we really need to know the value of the community estate.